Hi, friends. Host Eric here. And I am mad at somebody again. Yep, I am mad. I'm mad at somebody, and they totally deserve it. I just put up a video about it, but I'm still mad about it. I can't stop being mad about it until I talk about it more. This scoundrel woman, what's her name? Janice, I think, at the Mercy, the Assistant Director of the Mercy Medical Center Behavioral Services, has been railroading Rachel now for quite some time and colluding with her family and creating this justification for treating Rachel badly on behalf of, on the grounds that she smokes weed, basically. That here's how we can justify abusing and undermining Rachel's agency and treating her as though her opinion doesn't matter, and treating her as though she has no choice in this thing, and not getting consent for her, and otherwise not caring what she has to say about anything. This horrible, horrible place called Mercy Medical Center Behavioral Services in Garden City, New York. The assistant director of which is this woman named Janice, who, boy, what a terrible, 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 terrible job she's doing. Why? Well, because she doesn't care about the patients. She cares about the protocols. Protocol is, you come in here, we should take you in drug and alcohol treatment because you smoke weed. Smoking weed exacerbates the thing, so you have to be treated for that before we can go on action. She's going, here's my singular way. Well, your singular way just drove you directly off a cliff, lady. You don't avoid my questions. You don't start saying, I'm not going to be talked to like this. You're going to be talked to like this because of what you did. That's why. You're going to stand there and take it. Okay? If you don't want to be talked to like this, be a decent human being. Don't be a scoundrel. Don't avoid my questions. She's everything that's wrong with mental health facilities and mental health treatment in general. The way that mental health places treat, to the extent that a mental health treatment facility of any sort, or providing any sort of mental health services, treats the people it is providing services to as subhuman because they have mental health issues, that's mental health services done absolutely abjectly wrong. This woman is doing that. She's doing it in the most professional theater way, so that it appears as though her shit's legitimate. But I pierce right through that shit and make it explode. That little bubble of bullshit pop. That's what I do. The fact is, any sane, decent mental health professional would ask the patient if they want treatment for something. Notice when I go into the doctor, I don't suddenly find myself getting surgery for appendicitis without being informed that I was going to go under the gas and get surgery. The doctor just go, okay, and sign this. Good. Here you go. And gas. And what's going on? Why am I doing this? No. That's not how shit goes down. Any decent mental health professional would ask the patient if marijuana exacerbated their problem, would ask the patient if marijuana was a problem for them or needed to be treated, would care what the patient said about how marijuana actually played out in their life, would want the patient to be satisfied with the so-called treatment for something that she would agree needed to be treated. Now, look, it's very conceivable that somebody with mental health problem doesn't want to be treated for that mental health problem because of the mental health problem. So in Rachel's state of bipolar fugue, she didn't necessarily want to go into the hospital and get treated for it. It was a bit of a struggle. When she is in that state, then her opinion about her own mental health is somewhat suspect, obviously. She's not in that state. Okay. And the question you're asking here about marijuana usage is not related directly to that state. In other words, you're not saying, do you need to be treated right now for psychotic break? And she might say no, but she does. That's possible. But she's not in a psychotic break. So that's number one thing. And second of all, you're not asking her about a psychotic break. You're asking her about specifically whether she is good smoking pot in general across the board. So refusing to ask her about that, refusing to care what she thinks, assuming you are correct about it no matter what, and then it doesn't even matter if you get a real consent, you can just sort of railroad it through her. Well, that is the worst sort of behavior a mental health facility can provide, as far as I'm concerned. And from what I've heard, this place has done nothing but collude with forces in her family that want to oppress her on the grounds that she smokes weed. Now, people can come up with a lot of excuses to oppress somebody. Lots and lots and lots of excuses. Here's how you know they're excuses to oppress. Rachel smoking weed does not harm her brother in any demonstrable way at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. And he doesn't like the fact that she's a pothead. Well, what does that mean? How does her being a pothead impact him negatively? If he's saying, well, you can't smoke pot, Rachel, because it exacerbates your mental health problem. So, but she does anyway. So, first of all, it's her mental health problem. Why would you condemn her for doing something that makes her mental health problem worse if it doesn't impact you? And it doesn't impact you demonstrably in any way, which means, frankly, it doesn't make her mental health problem worse, because if it did, she'd be doing crazy shit, but she's not. So it's just an excuse, right? If Rachel were doing things like breaking his stuff, that would be a good reason to be mad at her. If Rachel were doing things like cursing at him in the morning, that would be a good reason to be mad at her. If Rachel were doing things like leaving a mess in the kitchen, that would be a good reason to be mad at her. Rachel's not doing any of those things. She's just being a pothead, quote unquote. So when she comes in from outside where she was smoking pot with her friends and it smells like pot, he freaks out. Why? What did it do to him? It did nothing to him. What's the harm to him? Nothing. What actual cause does he have to be upset at her? None. Why is he doing it? Because he wants to be mad at her, and he wants to control her, and he wants her to be a second-class citizen. He doesn't want to afford her legitimacy as a human being. That's why. Same thing with the Mercy Behavioral Services in whatever place. Mercy Medical Center Behavioral Services. It's bullshit. Absolute bullshit that any mental health professional would make such a diagnosis, treat somebody for it without getting their consent, and assume they're correct despite plenty of evidence to the contrary, including all the evidence that actually matters, namely that directly from the patient. This sort of malfeasance cannot go unpunished with the public shaming at the minimum. I'm not done calling that place. After I get done with this live stream, I'll probably call, if I can find that. I need Rachel to help me figure out what number that guy's at. Maybe I'll call the front desk again. But Rachel's medical center therapy place revealed their true faces to me today, and now they're getting my foot up their ass. This horrible therapist tried to avoid my questions, basic fucking questions, like, are her drugs scheduled? Meaning, are they like Adderall, for example? It's hard for me to get I can't pick it up 2 days early, for example, because it's a scheduled drug. So they have strict restrictions on it. So I was asking therapists if the drugs were scheduled or not. She didn't apparently know what the word meant, from what I could tell. But I'm not sure. She said, what do you mean? And I said, well, like, are they abuse-prone drugs that would likely be extra hard to get, like painkillers and stuff? And she said she didn't think so. But it took her a long time to answer that question. See, I asked it directly, and she answered a different question that I didn't ask. One of the things, right, if it were a different, more addictive drug, you might not be able to trust the patient to honestly detail their experience. Although even then, you'd have to respect it. That's the story they're telling right now. You can't compel a person to tell a different story, you know? But certainly with marijuana, there's plenty of evidence that shows it is a sustainable drug. You can use it sustainably, that it's much more sustainable to use marijuana than it is to use alcohol. So the thing is, even if it were the case that they were right, that it exacerbated the problem, and they were right that she really should stop, she obviously was never going to. She kept defying them. Thank you, Rachel, for that. I'm so proud of you for that. She kept defying them. She always knew better. She would not buckle and break and concede that this was a problem. And the thing is, she'd sometimes be forced to treat it as such, sometimes be forced to be sober or whatever, as though they were doing her some favor, but they were doing her no favor. They were just continuing to hammer into her the fact that there was something wrong with her, and she would be a second-class citizen, always trying to recover back to normal person. Well, those days are over. And Mercy, you're getting my foot up your ass for good reason, because that's how you've been treating her. You have not been asking her what she thinks at all. Sure, darling. I mean, the thing is, of course, it didn't have to go down like this either. It never has to go down like this. I'm calling and asking questions. When shit gets loud, when I start getting loud, or when I'm not being very happy, it's because somebody is trying to avoid my questions and trying to dissemble and not acknowledging what they need to acknowledge. They're trying to avoid telling me the truth. That's always a bad idea. That pisses me off. Do not avoid my questions. You will never be allowed to avoid them. You will never get away with your bullshit. So, for example, when I go, what kind of cheese did you bring? And you say, I brought salami, and I brought crackers, and I brought olives, and I brought... I said, stop. You're not answering my question. What kind of cheese did you bring? I don't like little tricks to try to avoid answering my question. That's not okay. That's how lies and horribleness get allowed to fester. And I'm not going to let the horrible, lying, festery garbage of this Mercy Medical Center Behavioral Services fester. The light of day is here, and you're done. You're done being festering cancer on people's ontologies. If you're doing it to Rachel, it wouldn't surprise me at all. You're doing it to other people too. So you are done. Okay? No more ontological assault on your patients, Mercy. I am the angel of righteous justice. My fiery sword is truth. And if you are burned by it, it means you are doing something wrong. Pow, pow. I guess they banned Accutane, huh? My first wife took Accutane, but I think they no longer let you take it. Accutane worked. That worked for sure. You took Accutane, didn't work? Ow. Ow. My first wife took it. It was rough. I mean, like, what do you mean it was rough? What happens when you're on it? What does it feel like? Or is it hard on your system or what? It reminds me of how I was treated when I had my mild nervous breakdown in high school. I had to repeat senior year, or minor nervous breakdown. I forget what they called it. Yeah, well, she wanted to control the frame. She was not accustomed to somebody else coming in and controlling the frame and being smarter about the thing that she's supposed to be the expert on than she is, you know? And she didn't like that. She's used to people being things she converts into a paycheck. Well, what I hear from you at the end is what really started, like, that's it. They're getting it now. Rachel informed me that when I was trying to talk to these ladies, when they were both in the room, they were like, I'm not listening to him. I'm not going to be spoken to like this. I am not going to be spoken to like this by a man and treating me like this. Listen, woman, the reason I spoke to you like that is not because you're a woman, not because I'm a man. It's because you weren't listening. You weren't being accountable. You weren't being honest. You were dissembling. You were avoiding. And you were trying to avoid taking accountability with the truth. The truth would deliver at your feet. So that's why I spoke to you like that. If you had cooperated and worked with me and we could get to the bottom of why it is you were doing this shit and what was wrong with it, and you would acknowledge everything and agree, work with me that you needed to work with me to make sure you didn't misbehave in the future like that. For example, I'd have to come in and sort of do periodic inspections by interviewing you to make sure you're not engaging the same sort of malfeasance with other patients. Then maybe we could avoid this shit. I seriously doubt you're going to do that, obviously, but that's what you should do, you scoundrel. Assistant Director. I'm sure she does a great job of the administrative and organizational work. The only problem is she's harming patients. So, you're supposed to help them. I don't know if you're aware of that. You're supposed to help the patients. If you're harming the patients, doing a great job of administrating processes that harm the patients, then that's not the kind of administrator you want, no matter how effective they are, right? Because they're effective at doing bad things. We don't want that. They're used to dealing with more submissive types of people. Right. Well, I have no problem being submissive with, I have no problem deferring. I'm not being submissive, but I have no problem deferring to them if they are saying things make sense. Unfortunately, they can talk to me as fancy as they want with their fancy talk. I'll understand it, no problem. I'm just asking some simple questions to make sure that I understand what's going on here. And I'm discovering, as I'm answering these questions, that there's a quick, like hide this, hide everything. Well, that's what their avoidance is. They're trying to hide everything. The fuck they will. The fuck they will. So they're very excited to get Rachel out of New York at this point because they realize everybody who's been sort of steamrolling her is realizing that that's not possible anymore. They're going to be held to account as Mercy Medical Center Behavioral Services is being held to account right now, and particularly Janice and that incredibly incompetent therapist that Rachel has, who doesn't even know how she's treating her, as far as I can tell. At least wasn't able to answer the question, and does know what she's treating her for because she read it from the chart. Now, I will give her credit. To her credit, she did not leave off the things she didn't want to read. So she has some fundamental honesty to her, or maybe she just didn't think of it. Either way, I appreciate her reading it out loud because everything was calm until I heard that bullshit. You're treating her for cannabis addiction? I knew there's no possible way Rachel could have agreed to this, at least not with anything resembling being fully informed, So I got some fucking huge acnes too on my back, Bacon. I've got some fucking cysts myself. I got some nasty ones lately. These fucking they're like big balls under my skin. It's awful. Those are awful. I'm sorry you suffer from that. Maybe it'll go away when you're older. Mine came in when I was older. I didn't used to have these things on my back. This is a fairly recent phenomenon. AFJDKJFKJFNCAJFKJJDS. What? I'm not sure, Octavio. I'm not sure. Hi, Mattias Sanchez. How you doing? Today we're discussing the abject failure and shameful dissembling exhibited today by Mercy Medical Center Behavioral Services personnel Janice and some other lady. Who's that other lady's name? Therapist lady. I bet it's like Barbara or something. She seems like a Barbara. So, Eric, are you sure you don't got the shingles? I'm pretty sure I don't got the shingles. I don't got them as far as I can tell. What would the shingles do that's so bad? I don't know. It's Janet. Janice and Amy. It's Janet. Okay, it's not Janice, it's Janet. Whatever. Janet, Janice. Same thing. Amy? Amy's the other one. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, it's like, come on. Come on. This is what the world needs a lot more of, obviously. Somebody come in there and say, you're doing what? Shit gets settled in and it becomes like normalized, you know? Oh, this is perfectly normal what we're doing here. We're just doing the thing we always do. Okay, well, there's your problem. That's the thing you're always doing is not okay. And you need to revamp this thing from the top down or the bottom up or something. Knock the whole thing down. Start over from scratch. I don't know, but you seem to be not very patient focused at all. You seem to be professional focused, which is backwards, right? Like you're like a lot of the education system too. Teachers go in to teach stuff and they go, I know how I want to teach. And then the student doesn't learn anything and they don't change how they teach. They just, too bad. See, there's something wrong with the student. I'm teaching how I want to teach and he's not learning anything. Well, I mean, the thing is, a good teacher teaches by presenting information, checking to see if there's comprehension, if there is moving on, if there's not repeating, you know, and presenting information in different ways. If the student's not really learning in a particular manner, maybe another manner will help. First of all, the best teacher will always ask, do you want to learn this? Do you have any idea why you're learning this? How this might be useful to you? Does it seem like it's worth it to you? Do you enjoy the subject? Are you naturally talented at it? Is this a subject in which there is natural talent per se? And almost every subject, the answer is yes. All these sort of questions need to be asked by a good teacher to their student because the student should drive the educational process, not the teacher. Now, it is true that I am the expert on debate and stuff. So I'm the one who's constructing the cases and saying, no, we're doing this strategy, not that strategy. But fundamentally, if my student didn't like debate, I wouldn't be coaching him. If he weren't competitive and into it for his own reasons, I wouldn't be coaching him. That's why I have one client, you know. I'm fortunate to not need a lot of clients right now. But the point is, even when I do have a lot of clients, I always inform the parents, look, and I inform the kids, first day of class, if you don't like this and you don't want to be here, just tell me and I'll get you out of here with it not being your fault or whatever, so that you don't get in trouble with your parents and they can put you in something else. If you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. If you don't think this is cool, I don't want you here. Now, I get that your parents are going to make you do something. So if your conclusion is, I'd rather be outside playing, but I'd rather be here than the alternatives for my parents are offering, I accept that as acceptable for me. You know, it's like I can't control your parents is controlling this. I can just, you know, but I check to make sure the students are there willingly. And I get that not everybody can, but regardless, you make the effort, right? You make the effort to affirm the individual's autonomy and agency and being, and not try to force them into your existing model because you care about people, not protocols. Janet here doesn't seem to care about Rachel. That's for sure. From what I understand, she has contributed to, colluded with, and otherwise been an important facilitator of the ongoing ontological assault being perpetrated against Rachel at her parents' house for years now. Years. Janet, did you ever ask Rachel if she wanted you to do that? Did you ever ask Rachel if that was something that was serving her mental health well, or did you just presume you knew better? Which is it, Janet? You just presumed you knew better. Rachel says here, I've been waiting for someone to talk like this for years. You fucks have been steamrolling her for years. I'm sure she has voiced some manner of but at you, and you have completely ignored it. I know Rachel is not the most expressive about her not liking something necessarily. She can be a little bit go along with, or at least appear that way if you're not picking up on subtle cues. But it seems pretty clear to me that when she says here, I've been waiting for someone to talk like this for years, that you've been ignoring her interests, concerns, and feelings about things for years as well, Janet. Now, Rachel's perfectly sane at the moment. There's no disputing that. She's not always perfectly sane, but she certainly is now. And I think that people in this community who have been encountering her since the day that I brought her around until now will agree. She's not on camera right now, but would agree, I guess, that she seems as healthy and happy and fulfilled as I've ever seen her. Now, why? Is it because of anything you were suggesting? No. Was it because of she needed to be restricted more? No. Was it because she needed to be told what was wrong with her more? No. Was it because she needed to be ignored more? No. Was it because she needed medical professionals pathologizing her being in a way that colluded with her mother and her brother to oppress her? No, she didn't need any of that bullshit. And that's exactly what you did, Mercy Medical Center and Behavioral Services, Janet. And this new therapist is new. She's not necessarily a scoundrel. She's just sort of, she finds herself trying to do her job, not really thinking about the moral aspects of it at all, probably fairly incompetent and trying to posture as though she were professional and competent in some fashion and hoping that that's going to get her by. Well, okay, fine. Today's the day you learn to approach this thing differently. You learn to approach it with actual concern for the patient. And, I'm still seething about it because there's two separate problems here, right? The one is the matter of who's the client. Namely, they don't seem to treat Rachel as a client. They seem to treat her as a pet at a vet. The mom brings her here. The mom says what's going to happen to her, and that happens to her, and she's not consulted. And when she objects, she's ignored, and that seems to be what's happening here, right? But the other problem is, and the reality of it pisses me off, but obviously from my perspective, I'm an experiential knower. Things that piss me off tend to be things that I experience. So what really pissed me off was these people avoiding my fucking questions. Do not do that. Answer my questions. As far as I can tell, she was half just a chit to be used in getting money from the state of New York or whatever, or the insurance company or something, whatever, And in some sense, she was treated just like that. They wanted to put her into something that they could charge for, so they stuck her into some sort of drug or alcohol program because that's what they had. It's not like they really have any sort of thing for people who have bipolar mania it's like, okay, now all the bipolar mania people are here. Well, what are they going to talk about? Nothing. They're all sane. Why? They're all taking their drugs. Boy, it sure was crazy back when I was crazy. Yep, sure was. Glad I'm not crazy anymore. All right, see you later. That's the conversation they have. They don't need any extended services like that. Should they meet with a psychiatrist once a month or something? Yeah, they should, because, approximately, not necessarily once a month, but once every few months, sure. Once they get the medication stabilized and it's working, they don't need to. They can rely on the patient or, to indicate, hey, this doesn't seem to be working anymore. Or if they've got contact with somebody who can be reliably trusted to speak on behalf of the patient, like me, not somebody who can't be reliably trusted to speak on behalf of the patient, but somebody who the patient agrees with, agrees is representing their interests, then that's fine too. They can talk to me about shit or whatever. It's completely wrong. It's nonsense. Her problem is not marijuana addiction. She's being treated for marijuana addiction, or not, it's not exactly what it said. It was marijuana something. Cannabis, what is it? Cannabis something. And I don't know if this is some sort of pet diagnosis that Janet came up with to wreak her plan of oppression upon pot smokers of the world, or what? Of course marijuana is non-addictive. It's something that people use as a compensatory thing. I use it to help me stay sober from alcohol. It's perfectly sustainable. It's not something that causes me problems, and it helps me to feel like my temporal bargaining has been attained. And that's the thing that Janet doesn't even understand. Is issues of drug and alcohol consumption are issues of temporal bargaining. You fuck with somebody's temporal bargaining thing, you push out a reaction someplace else. It's unavoidable. If you're trying to tell Rachel she can't smoke pot, well, she uses that currently in her ontology. She says, well, I'm frustrated, I'm sad, I'm whatever, but at least when I get home, I'll get to smoke some weed and relax, and I'll enjoy that. This is a reward for myself. It's called temporal bargaining. You start fucking with people's temporal bargaining, you don't change the need for there to be some sort of temporal bargaining. Everybody does it. Even ENTJs do it. The thing is, you might be bargaining for something you think is legitimate, while you think the thing she's bargaining for is illegitimate, but that's just completely arbitrary and shows what a scoundrel you are. You don't see the fundamental equivalency in other people's modalities if they differ from your own. You're hardly qualified to be a mental health professional as a consequence. So, madam, now that I'm not raising my voice at you, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? You don't like what I'm saying? Because you can't now say you don't like how I'm talking to you. I bet you don't like what I'm saying. But remember, what I'm saying is the truth about what you did. So it's appropriate that you wouldn't like it because what you did was bad. And you need to learn a lesson. This is that lesson. I am your teacher. You're welcome. It's not the end of the lesson. I still have to talk to the director of that place, the actual director. If I didn't go to the program, I couldn't live with my parents, so I went. Keep in mind, she didn't have a choice as to how she got treated when she went to this program. So basically, it was absolute collusion between her parents and this medical center. The medical center told her parents, hey, what you're doing is wrong. I've talked to her on a number of occasions, and you're concluding that her smoking pot is the problem? No, the way you're treating her is the problem. A smart person would see through that shit, as I did immediately. The scoundrels can't get away from me. Yeah, I need the phone number of the director of that place. Her parents were leveraging her having housing to force her to receive medical treatment for a problem she didn't have. And this fucking medical center colluded with them in doing so. Whether tacitly or explicitly, doesn't matter. And that's why they're avoiding all these basic questions. They don't like how this makes them look, and they realize they got a massive lawsuit on their hands if Rachel decides to file it. And, whether or not Rachel decides to file it is probably going to have a lot to do with how satisfied I am with conversations I have with people. So, the thing is, I definitely want that phone number. And I think what I'm going to do probably is not call him today. Let this video sit there and the previous one, and hopefully somebody informs somebody over there that they fucked up, and let the director decide what he wants to do when I call, so that he's coming at it from the right direction. I can tell him in advance what the right direction is. The right direction is to convince me that you're as appalled as I am, that you're going to clean house, that there's going to be substantial change in the culture of that place, that patients are no longer going to be treated as animals, and that consent is going to be sought, real consent, fully informed consent is going to be sought for every patient going forward forever. That's a possibility. You could approach me like that. Or you could try something else. I would suggest very strongly when I talk to you, you do not avoid answering my questions. I'm going to give you till tomorrow before I call you. I will call you. I will be recording it, probably live streaming it concurrently. And I will tell you when you first answer the phone that this call is being recorded, okay? There's one Google review for this place. Dee is a nightmare. She doesn't care about helping clients at all. She does minimal work when people really need the help. Don't go here if you need help ASAP because you'll put your mental health on hold for months. What a waste of time. Well, at least they just ignored her rather than oppressing her. Whoever the person was who wrote that review. Yeah, it's like they didn't just ignore Rachel. They contributed to a structured oppression, a structural oppression that was performed and executed in the name of, I guess, anti-drug war by her some elements of her family. Her dad really got dragged along into it. It's not really his fault. He can't help it. He's not beast enough. Which, I get it. Not everybody can be. Rachel's not beast enough. I don't blame her for that at all. I don't feel upset at Rachel for not being beast enough to stand up to all these people by herself. And I don't exactly blame her dad for not being beast enough to stand up to the less desirable elements, or at least inclinations in the family. But I am beast enough. And fuck no. Hi, Abraham. Long time no see. How you doing? Nice to see you. This is Abraham, my old friend and former assistant coach at Autonomy, Susie's boyfriend, and generally a hell of a guy, Abraham. Welcome. Nice to see you. I hope you brought me cheese. Life is sucking, dude? Why? Why is life sucking? Life is sucking because what happened? What happened to cause your relationship with Susie to be on the rocks? Oh, I see. So you're worried about if you get a no, then you won't be able to go there. Dr. Dormacy? Is that the director of that place? Well, you'll probably get in. I'm sure. You put down you were Mexican? They love that in Europe. Yeah, that's the director? Okay, cool. Thank you. I'll call you tomorrow, Dr. Dormacy. And I'll just check the like. I'll copy it down and put it in a text document. Let's see what you have to say about the performance of your scoundrel employees, especially Janet. Janet is. Your reign of terror is over, Janet. Your reign of terror is over. I think he is, but they've had some changes. Could be John Green. Rachel seems to think it's John Green or something. What's majorly new with me? Well, I don't know how much have you met Rachel really at all? Rachel's my girlfriend here. And right now I am outraged on her behalf because somebody pissed me off this morning. And there's no director listed. Okay, well, Janet's the assistant director. See how shady this fucking place is? You see what I'm saying? Shady, shady, shady. That's what I would say. Shady business all around. Sketch as fuck. Well, Mercy Medical Center and Behavioral Services. I'm making a stink. This is what they call making a stink. So get ready for stink making. Yep. That's me. I like to make stinks. I like to make stinks, and I like to make stinks. I like to cook steaks as well as making steaks. Here, I did that last time I got the assistant director. I think that's the number I tried before, but I will try this. And, another thing is, if there's some sort of like mental health services oversight thing for the New York government, that would be a good number to get too. I'm collecting these numbers and putting them in this notepad. Okay, Octavio, so your work's not going to waste. There's probably like state reporting thing, like report on the failure of Janet Starr. Janet is starring in a very surprising drama today, as she had the misfortune of running afoul of Eric's questions and made the very, 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 very poor decision to avoid answering them and to avoid talking to me. Always a poor, poor decision, because then you have accountability avoidance syndrome, and I don't like that. I'm the person who brings accountability to those who have accountability avoidance syndrome. And Janet Starr, I smell accountability avoidance syndrome on you. I do. You don't want to be accountable for this, but you are going to be, little missy. You mark my words. That marijuana seems to be exacerbating something. What is it? What is being exacerbated by that bung rip? Oh, right. It's my feeling of relaxation and calm. It's been exacerbated. Look, I'm crazy now. My eyes are moving. Yeah, it's mad nice here too, CJ O'Connell. It's beautiful today. The rain came in last night. We had a nice wet. I don't have any. No, there's no allegations of abuse and neglect. I want to. That one, the Office of Quality Management is committed to addressing issues, concerns, or requests for information about mental health services within New York State. I will call them for sure, and I will let them know that. That they have a quality control problem, and they now have a public relations problem too. They got a quality control problem, and they've got a public relations problem, and somebody's ass needs to be in a sling. Somebody needs to experience the natural consequences of persistent malfeasance lasting years. That was part of the ongoing oppression of my beloved and perfect darling Rachel. It's so appalling too. It's like you could hardly oppress a less deserving person than my special precious angel. I mean, like, why would anybody want to oppress Rachel? Rachel's perfect. Rachel's gorgeous and soft and smells good and nice and fair and kind and all those sort of things. New York City is actually paying money to get rid of the homeless, shipping to another part of the country the year's worth of rent. Ooh, let's see if we can get that, Rachel. All you got to do is say you're homeless. When I was there, the counselors changed, but the patients never changed. I was like, doesn't that say something? Well, nobody's getting cured, that's for sure. They don't have any interest in curing anybody, obviously. They have an interest in treating people, and they don't have an interest in working with them as equals, obviously. Because when I came in there to talk to them about medication and whether or not they can help facilitate this transition by giving her a couple months supply or something, I started with the fact that what Rachel had informed me of, which I confirmed this with the therapist right away. So I'm trying to see how we can sort of continue the medication while decoupling it from these services. And that's what we started with, like, can you facilitate this move by helping us to get a few months worth of medication for the move so that while we set up equivalent services in California, and boy, that didn't, they were not interested in, no, it's not possible to do this. Well, why isn't it possible? Are they scheduled drugs? Well, no. So what are you treating her for? And it's like, this is the way it went down. It didn't start with me going in there attacky or anything. I was just trying to get a problem we needed solved. And if the woman had said, well, look, I can talk to the psychiatrist and see what he says, that would have been fine. We wouldn't have had this sort of conversation, right? So, I mean, that's all she needs to say. The therapist needs to say is, okay, well, let me talk to the psychiatrist. I get you. You're moving and you need a few months, and let's see if that's going to be possible. And we can, either send the prescription to California, or we could send it here in New York, and your dad can mail it to you. When Rachel pointed out that her dad could mail it, the woman pushed back on that. Well, no, mailing it, we can't do that because then there's a big problem. Wait, what a second. Wait, why can't you mail it? In fact, it worked before, no problem. Her dad mailed the medication to her before, no problem. What's the problem with mailing it? No answer to that question. There's no answer. They don't want to solve any problems for me. They don't want to care what matters to Rachel. They don't want to care about Rachel's actual mental health. If they did, they'd facilitate her getting more pills to make sure that the move has her safely medicated so she doesn't go crazy while we're setting up mental health services here in California. They don't care about her mental health. We know that because the lady made no effort to even consider ways that she might facilitate this. This video is about this subject, at least for the time being, because I'm very upset about it. It's like, what kind of nightmarishly bad excuse for a mental health facility? What does this shit? Let me call this 1-800 number. Let's see if they're still open. 597-8481.
Hello, thank you for calling the New York State Office of Mental Health Customer Relations. If you would like to be transferred to the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255.
No, it's okay. Janet didn't piss me off that much.
If you are calling to report an allegation of abuse or neglect,
no,
please hang up and call the New
I'm
York
not
State
reporting abuse or neglect.
Protection of People with Special Needs.
I'm not.
At 1-855.
Okay, I don't need to hear that part.
2122. If you are calling to ask a question or file a concern about mental health care and treatment in New York State, or to speak with customer relations, please press 2 now. Wait while I transfer your call. Office of Mental Health Customer Relations.
Hi, I'm calling with a complaint and concerns about Mercy Medical Center Behavioral Services. And I had a conversation with a couple of people who worked there this morning. And I was very...
You said it was Mercy. What was the second part?
Mercy Medical Center Behavioral Services is the full name of it.
Okay. And what is your name?
My name's Eric Strauss. Strauss.
All right, and your date of birth?
4/27/71.
And where is the facility located? What county?
Garden City, New York. Or that's a city. It's Nassau County.
Nassau.
Not that. Yeah.
All right. And a good phone number we reached.
626 615 8751.
All right. And what is your concern?
So my girlfriend went in there today to get her services, and I was trying to discuss with her, discuss with the therapist there, the need for trying to get them to facilitate making sure she has her medicine that she takes for bipolar as she's moving to California relatively soon. And anyway, in this conversation, I immediately got a lot of pushback and stuff. And what was revealed during the course of it was they are treating her for marijuana addiction that she never consented to be treated for, and are compelling her to go to drug treatment classes that she does not need or want in order as a stipulation on getting her medication, which is just insane. They're treating her as though she's not a human being. They're not taking her consent about anything. They're not asking her what she thinks about any of these so-called treatments they're providing. And they appear to just treat her as something like a chit that they cash in to get money from the state or the insurance company or whatever. When I spoke to them this morning, they were avoiding all my questions. I tried to ask them things like, why is it not possible to have the prescription on the normal time and have her dad mail it to us? And they just dissembled about it, refused to address it honestly. And this was a pattern of behavior I got from both the therapist and then the assistant director, somebody named Janet Starr. And what I learned from Rachel after that fact is that this woman has been colluding with her family to essentially pathologize her being in her marijuana smoking, despite the fact that she never consented to any of this stuff, never requested it, and if asked, would say it was not at all remotely serving her interests. So that's my complaint.
Okay. And what is the patient's name?
Rachel Lapalosa.
Can you spell the last name for me, please?
Lapelosa.
And do you know Rachel's date of birth?
Yeah, it's 1/16/85.
All right. All right, I can go ahead and get this information forwarded to the field office that oversees the facility, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too. Bye. There. Now I feel satisfied. Now I don't need to call that guy anymore, probably. We'll see. Maybe I do. I think I did a good job of conveying my problem that I was having there. It's plausible that I would have conveyed it poorly because I would just have to be like, these fucking I think I did a pretty good job. So anyway, the mental health services people and nurses who are evil, like that nurse at that hospital we went to when Rachel was having an episode, you better watch out. No more evil is allowed. I am Sredni Vashtar. I read it the other night, Rachel. I read the story of Sredni Vashtar. I don't think you were here during the time. I said, this is our story. This is our story. Our story is that of Sredni Vashtar. And Rachel is Conradin in the story. So, if you can find that one on a live stream, listen to it or read the story yourself and see what I mean. All right, I'm going to have to wrap this up now. I'm kind of starving. I need to eat something. And I'm supposed to call Matthew too. Call Matthew in a little bit too. I need to eat something first. I need to eat and drink something. I'm feeling very meow. Thanks, CJ. Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate it. All right, I gotta go. I feel sick all of a sudden. I gotta eat and drink some fluids and stuff. I need to go to the store or something. I feel meh. All right, goodbye, everybody. Love you. Don't forget to flame shoes.